today's video to say a massive thank you to our sponsor, Carly. Carly is the specialist for connected car solutions. With the Carly device, you can connect your BMW, VAG, Porsche, Renault, Toyota and Mercedes, getting access to coding and diagnostic options on your car. Incredibly simple to install. Connecting the Carly adapter into the OBD port, opening up the app and checking your diagnostics to make sure that that engine code light isn't anything to worry about. You can customize your car with this app too by the customization features on the Carly app, by opening up the factory settings on the car, changing the brightness of the running lights, coming home lights, cornering lights, auto locking, even like on this Scirocco I have today, remembering the driver's seat heat level. Ah, lovely. Awesome device for anybody that wants to do a diagnostic check or customize their car through the OBD port. Grab yours now, there is a link in the description. Thank you so much for Carly for sponsoring this video. Let's get back to the action. So the 2019 Suzuki Jimny that I've picked up today from the guys at PC Consultants on the Isle of Wight. Huge shout out to having one of these in your fleet. So the newest generation of Suzuki Jimny that I have today. It's actually a really interesting 4x4 daily driver off-roader. Now the outside is probably the coolest thing about this. I mean, it looks like it's mated with a Jeep Wrangler, a G-Wagon and a Defender to create this small baby version of all of those vehicles put together. I think Suzuki really hit the nail on the head with the styling of this thing, with its bricky look. I think it works. Now, although this thing looks like it's been designed with a ruler, which I actually quite like in a weird way, there's a lot of plastic, so the whole front of the truck is pretty much plastic. Little bit of metal here, but other than that, everything is plastic. In my opinion, this means that you can brush past a lot of things without actually scratching the paint. Good thinking, Suzuki. Now, the brick styling continues pretty much all over this thing, where there is a lot of straight line, not too many angles and not too many curves. Plastic trim coming up in these big over fenders that actually make a lot of sense, because if you actually use this for its intended purpose and you're scratching parts, you're only scratching plastic, which is fine. It's incredibly simple styling though. Like, you have big chunky hinges for the back, big square bumpers, and look how square the door is. Like, the door frame is just so square. Now, practicality in something like this, the classic Jimny, you could sit 4 people in it, you could go anywhere, you could do anything, but the practicality of this means that I think these are going to be used a lot more inner cities, maybe not as much as a daily vehicle you do a lot of commuting in. For representation, I've got this rather lovely reusable glass cup from the guys at PC Consultants to prove a point as to the boot size on this. Also, when the door opens, that's going to be quite hard to open in the car park, but for representation purposes, that's pretty much how big the boot is. So if you're ever going to want to actually put anything in the boot, that's about as much as you're going to be able to put. You're going to have to put the seats down. There is actual checker plating, it's plastic though, on all of these parts. I think that's to give it a bit more of a rugged look, if I'm honest. But as you can see, when you do pop the seats down, there is actually quite a lot of room in this. But with them up, 4 people in there, you ain't getting their luggage in the back, like, at all. Jumping inside the Jimny, yeah, that rattles the whole car when you actually shut the door. Interesting inside though that they went for such a minimalist design. A lot of black, a lot of exposed metal, but this is very, very cheap. This one I'm sat in right now cost under £20,000 from the factory, and it has every optional extra going. Even has reversing camera. That's a good effort. It's not really like you need stuff like that though, because the seating position, you can see everything. It's one big brick. So there's no overhang from the front end, there's no overhang from the back end. Where the driver actually sits, the door is so thin that the road is literally there. I mean, there's no overhang whatsoever. Great for off-roading, parking, driving this thing around the town, so big thumbs up there. Although the dash is actually slightly contemporary, it's got a center screen here with all your multimedia, sat nav and a reversing camera. You've got digital climate control down here, and this one actually has heated seats as well. Next to the obvious heated seats that you need in this off-roader, it actually has the conventional 2 high, 4 high and 4 low gear lever with a standard 5-speed manual. Up front you have a 1.5 litre naturally aspirated 101 brake horsepower engine, and that's about that for that part of the car. But all in all, it's contemporary, minimalistic. It is made to a price, this Jimny, like the previous generation was and the one before that. So they are in keeping with what the Jimny is really all about, which is the off-road capabilities. Another thing is the suspension is incredibly soft, like incredibly soft. To illustrate my point about the suspension, Although on-road presence, it doesn't jiggle about too much. I was expecting a lot more from the reviews I'd actually seen from this car. There is a definite sense of the car floating. Its off-road capabilities are there, and although I haven't got a lot of off-road to do today, there's a nice little lane that I've found that we're able to just stop and tip it up the side. Just takes it easy. At the end of the day, are you really going to put this thing right through its paces when you daily drive it? I don't think you are. You're going to do about as much as I'm doing now, which is surfing down this bumpy little bit of track, and it does that literally with no sweat whatsoever. Also, the steering is incredibly light, like hilariously light for what it is. It's impressive. So we come through here, nice bit of articulation there. It just does stuff with all the comfort as well. And although I'm no off-roading god whatsoever, and I literally have done a handful of off-road missions in my life, this to me, if you're after an off-roader, would be the only choice. The only choice. Unless you had silly money for a Wrangler, or you wanted to wait for the Defender. But again, they're going to be silly money. Silly money. So on the way back up the hill, I'm going to select 4 high, because 2 high makes you drift. So if you want a drift car, this is the thing to buy. Roll back to where we were. 4 high, which is easy to engage, just like that. Clonks into gear. Nothing on the dash to tell you other than the green light telling you it is in 4-wheel high. Onwards we go. Takes the strain instantly, and we'll make it hard for it. We'll go up the banks. We're going up the banks, and I literally don't even think this car cares that I'm doing it to this. I know this isn't crazy off-roading or anything silly like that, but most cars would quiver trying to get up here. I know most of the cars I've owned would quiver trying to get up this little track, but this, come up this side, it literally doesn't care. It doesn't care whatsoever. You're a sub 20 grand. If you live in the country and you want a nice, comfortable little 4x4 that's new, this is the thing to buy. 47 miles an hour. Jokes aside, it's not a performance orientated vehicle, this, let's be honest. 1.5 litre naturally aspirated engine up front, producing 101 brake horsepower. That's that. Really? There isn't really a lot else you can really say about the engine other than it makes it go along. I don't think it's very torquey. You don't need a big engine or all the torque in the world to actually get what you need from this car. Jimny is all about. It is about the capabilities. This thing on its ladder chassis means that it has a better articulation than a Jeep Wrangler. Yeah, that's right. And a Jeep Wrangler is like one of my favourite cars ever. This is sub 20 grand, brand new. All of its, not say competitors, but cars like this, Wranglers, 50 grand. G-Wagon, 120, 150, they're just silly money. A new Defender that unfortunately isn't out yet, so we can't actually go and see what they're like, but I'm assuming they're going to be north of £40,000, £50,000. They're not going to be 20 grand at the end of the day. So this has a section in the market that doesn't really have anyone else in it. It's cheap and cheerful, and yes, that does relate to the interior quality and the way it drives. It does drive like an agricultural 4x4, because that's exactly what it is. It's got a cool frock over it. It looks
very, very cool from outside, which means that if you did have this in London, I can completely see why you would. It's got a good tight turning circle, you can get over curbs if you need to, terrible roads, it just glides all over them. Down the country roads where I'm from and there's no real motorways whatsoever, this again makes complete sense. It does wobble, don't get me wrong, but the suspension is set up for an off-road vehicle, so it's going to perform in that way. It's going to wallow a little bit. When I mean a little bit, I mean like it literally feels like the back end ain't connected to the front end, but that's character in my opinion. I don't necessarily want it to do that because it's not a performance hot hatch or anything. This is something that you can chuck down a field and not be that bothered that you're not going to get to the other side. It's light at 1.3 tons, so it's not really going to get itself stuck, and it doesn't have all the power in the world, but it doesn't need all the power in the world. Pricing, you can get one for around £16,000 with no optional extras from the factory. This one is between £19,000 and £20,000 from the factory, completely spec'd out. So that means you get the nice wheel, adaptive lights up front, you get heated seats, you get sat nav, you get the reversing camera, which at the end of the day, because the car is so cheap, you would just spec it up anyway. You would just spec it up to have all of those things. On the road presence, it does actually sit quite high. The seating position is high, so you do feel like you're in an off-roader, but as you can hear, I'm currently going through a little bit of water and I can hear literally every drop in that rear wheel arch. I can hear all of the prop shaft and everything underneath me actually turning round. But again, that isn't a bad thing. It's how this car is built, it's how it performs, and they're incredibly cheap to run with that 1.5 litre engine up front. Now the average consumption, I've had this for a few hours now, this little Jimny, I've been getting 36.4 MPG, which again, fantastic real world numbers. So I'm finishing this video where I should have started it, taking this thing down a little dirt track and just enjoying it for its intended purpose, which is an off-roader. If you did like this video guys, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one.